Spencer Tracy is the golden boy of his generation, an actor with a difference, charismatic, talented and charming. His prestige and legacy in Hollywood did not go unnoticed. It's not just about his magnetism and the movie exploitation, but the memorable personal and more pronounced secrecy that defined his over 26 years of an adulterous relationship with legendary Katharine Hepburn, his marriage, and the sexuality thing that would characterize this great icon. What made Spencer Tracy constantly feel ashamed? For drama legend George M. Cohan, Spencer Tracy is simply the best actor I've ever seen. This comes after watching the young talent display his creativity on stage at the early part of his career. Several years down the line, famous directors and producers could not help but agree with the assertion. The story of Spencer Tracy is like the legendary Once Upon a Time tales by moonlight, a man whose intriguing romantic life is dubbed by the media as the Spencencate, a term used to describe the illicit, outrageous and prolonged love life, or rather romantic association, between Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Records show that the duo may have frolicked in their peculiar romantic world for decades, during which they also collaborated on about 9 movies. That relationship is, of course, the one thing most people would not forget in a hurry about Hollywood romance and scandals. Talking about the Spencer Tracy of a gem, the man with an extraordinary encomium for a career well spent, his mark of respect was repeatedly appraised and applauded by industry experts, colleagues and teeming audiences for over 41 years. Maybe I should also join other critics by asking how could one sum up a love affair kept undisclosed for nearly 3 decades. Unlike a typical movie storyline, this epic Spencer-Katharine affair is one too many a disgrace for us to fathom that it happened, but it did. The secrecy with which the temperamental, colourful and married Spencer Tracy managed his affairs with many women is one of those best-kept Hollywood open secrets. Hepburn's on-screen chemistry with Spencer, in particular, is talked about as the most convincing display of affection in movie history. Young Tracy was said to have first discovered his acting talent at Ripon College, in what became an early successful display of creativity before he was favoured with a scholarship to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Intensive 7 years of stage production saw young Spencer criss-crossing a series of stock companies and intermittently featuring in Broadway productions, until he got a career breakthrough in 1930 when his lead performance in The Last Mile made him a movie sensation and brought him to the notice of Hollywood studios. At this time it is almost certain that talented Spencer would hit the screen, and in no time was cast in John Ford's Up the River, that he starred alongside Humphrey Bogart. His contract with Fox Film Corporation was interesting, though nothing to write home about, because the 5-year period saw highly energetic Tracy featuring in one acting tour de force after another. Spencer's entertainment activity during this period did not help his promising talent, because such were generally not recognised at the box office, resulting in not being known by the wider movie audience. All this ensured that even after doing about 25 films and starring in almost all the movies as the leading man, none ever became a hit, although critics pointed out his performance in The Power and the Glory as highly plausible and creative. But who is Spencer Tracy, and why are we talking about him at this time? Spencer Bonaventure Tracy is the second son of Caroline and John Tracy. He was born in Milwaukee in 1900. His father was a salesman and of Irish Catholic descent, while Caroline a wealthy Presbyterian Midwestern kin. Data available shows that Tracy was a difficult and hyperactive kid. His not too encouraging school attendance was an early concern, even though he was raised as a strict Catholic faithful. I heard that he was put under the custody of Dominican order nuns when he was 9, just so he could change his inherent behaviour at the time, and many years after, the famous Spencer told fans that he never would have gone back to school if there had been any other way of learning to read the subtitles in the movies. So it was obvious that young Spencer got inspired to act early in life after watching certain movies repeatedly, and would try to imitate the same while with his friends. Spencer was importuned to learn from the Jesuit academies as a teenager. I also know that he attributed what he learned at the academy to what made him better. The ability to memorize lines is among the things Spencer was grateful for at this time because, by the time he began stage performances, he said, "It gave me something of a stage presence, helped get rid of my awkwardness, including the ability to speak extemporaneously." Young Tracy soon became a member of the college debate team, which of course helped him overcome public speaking fright, which became an advantage when he started acting. Tracy and childhood friend actor Pat O'Brien soon became theatre freaks, with little attention to their academics. Tracy welcomed his adulthood by enlisting in the Navy alongside O'Brien and was sent to the Naval Training Centre in northern Illinois. They were still naval trainees when World War I ended, with Tracy ending with the rank of Seaman Second Class. The war credits gave him a place at Ripon College, where he had hoped to become a doctor, but entertainment took over. When Spencer Tracy and his wife Louise Treadwell first met on a New York coach as young talents, still enjoying their youthful mature of the 20s, Louise was more popular as a performer than Tracy. A typical brunette beauty respected by her family as Louise, a clever and serious young lady with almost all kinds of opportunities at her disposal, and so could have done anything to be great in life, but she chose to be an actress. With his unique Irish look and that thick sandy hair, Tracy was quite distinctive compared to the men she'd ever known. To say the obvious, the two fell in love and were married. Louise was 27 and younger Spencer Tracy was 4 years behind, about 9 months after their first child John was given birth. Well, the lyric today is that Tracy may have been so passionate about his wife and John that he never was confident enough to divorce his wife or to leave his son John. But how true is that, juxtaposing it with the fact that he was living an amorous life with other women, including the record-breaking affairs with Hepburn? The initial joy that greeted the birth of little John took a miserable turn when 10 months after, Louise made a shocking discovery about the child that changed the course of things in their family. She noticed alarmingly that her son was oblivious to sound, because he could not respond to strange noises or when his name was called, but smiled when touched, implying that little John Tracy was fundamentally deaf, and more disturbing was that his medic told Louise it was likely that the condition would be permanent. Things took a dramatic turn from that moment as the disturbed and confused mum became passionate with her baby. Observers said Louise was troubled and depressed and continuously researched a possible cure. But at this time she kept the discovery away from the husband. The news remained a secret not known to Tracy. The situation was so pathetic that nothing else mattered to Louise except her son's health. But not too long, rumours went around of an ongoing affair between Spencer and his leading lady, co-star Selina Royle. That one rented the air for a while, increasing anger on both divides, amidst all the noises generated within the gossip circle. When Louise heard about the affair and was focusing on Selina Royle, she did not know that the real culprit is the company's ingenue, a cute brunette identified as Betty Hannah. A trusted source close to the Spencer-Louise union once talked of how they hardly quarrelled, but on this occasion had heard them argue, and had heard Spencer shout at her, but she never responded to him. Many years later, Royle admitted being in a passionate romance with Spencer, but that she never slept with him. "I was in love with Spence, and I believe he was with me," she was quoted. It took 3 months for Louise to eventually tell Spencer about their son's health. Narrating her story, Louise said Spencer buried his face in his hands, and took a moment to digest the information before asking, "So he'll never be able to say Daddy?" Reports said Spencer felt guilty and blamed himself for the predicament his family was in, having committed an illicit emotional bond with Royle and with Betty Hannah, with critics thinking that he may have slept with other women during Louise's pregnancy, as was the case with most Hollywood stars of the era. There was also a theory that Spencer Tracy was very remorseful because of the strong Catholic upbringing that hunted him like a ghost, but that would remain a theory until proven otherwise. Perhaps very emotional Spencer knew he needed to be responsive about his duty as a father, and particularly towards his deaf son. From all indications, Spencer loved his son and felt terrible about it. He lived a life filled with remorse, feeling that he had failed his family. But while he was sad about his son's situation, Spencer was also not happy that his marriage was deviating negatively, because it was apparent that Louise was more concerned about her son than any love relationship with her husband. Critics said that Spencer Tracy was groomed in religious settings that teach sex to be solely for reproduction, and anything else was morally wrong, could not have been engaging in extramarital relationships. The argument is that he may have lived contrary to what he professed, at least not with his age-long affair with Hepburn. In the words of director Joe Mankiewicz, who made a case for Spencer's infidelities, he didn't leave Louise, he left the scene of his guilt. The good thing is that despite the historic affair with Hepburn, Tracy did not think it was wise to abandon his wife. Perhaps the need to fund his son's care, even as Louise vacated her career to look after the little boy, may have been a driving force in Spencer's productive film career. When Spencer's Hollywood career gathered momentum, he was earning about $1,000 weekly pay, an amount big enough to do lots of things for his family, but as reported, he took to drinking and womanizing. And do they say he ate too much and got addicted to chocolates and sweets? Not a nice thing to hear about a legend that made humanity happy with his talent. Maybe I should just say he spent a huge amount of his money recklessly. Even as his once shining and full of life Louise had to walk on foot to and from within Los Angeles neighborhood and the East Coast move, trying to get specialists for their son, she also registered John in schools where he could acquire the requisite knowledge. Even as Spencer's name continues to pop up in the gossip media about his frolicking from one co-star to another, about 10 years after the rumours took a dramatic turn, as columnists hinted that their marriage had separated. It turns out that the gossip had an element of truth, because Spencer would confirm the trial separation and attributed it to the growing incompatibility in the marriage. If there is any blame to be attached, it is mine. Mrs. Tracy and I are still excellent friends, and perhaps living apart for a while, Spencer told journalists, and added that he was hopeful that the brief separation will lead to a reunion. Even though he had just begun another adulterous affair with actress Loretta Young, who is also of the Catholic faith, rumours have it that he equally talked about marriage with the then 20-year-old star performer. But on second thoughts, he felt it was a disservice to his physically challenged son, who needed him to be strong. Reports say Spencer told Humphrey Bogart, his pal, that he didn't think he could pull through with that second marriage, saying, "What could I say to Johnny?" Spencer stated that it was really difficult to make his 9-year-old little boy understand that he was about to leave his mother, and for Louise her courage was exceptional. "I've repeatedly told him to go out with other people," she told the media. She is aware he'd befriended most of the girls he worked with. "They're never an issue with her, because he always told me about it," she said. She can't say if they still truly love each other, but something very unique like a deep understanding, companionship and devotion had kept them together. I heard that the first time Hepburn met and fell for Spencer, she was purportedly told that Tracy would cut her to size. Their romance soon became a media sensation, with reports alleging that Hepburn had to watch her back with a gun in certain hotels in case her rivals would make a scene, convinced Spencer and Ingrid Bergman were inside the venue. Lots of secrecy shrouded Hepburn's affair with Spencer, including "I am too tall for you," a statement credited to Hepburn on their first meeting, which she had denied. As the two began to appear in movies, Hepburn said that she found Spencer irresistible. "I would have done anything for him," she said, and for her she had always wanted to be independent, with no intention of getting committed to marriage. She made fans believe that she wanted to paddle her canoe. Was it the reason her affair with Spencer endured, and Spencer was satisfied with her as a mistress while his wife remained in the background? There are other questions for the school of thought which theorized that Spencer would not divorce his wife because of his Catholic background. Does it mean that the same religious practice allowed him to be adulterous, which they say is an even bigger offence within the Church? This, in my opinion, presupposes that Spencer did not remarry for personal reasons that may or may not be connected to whatever you might have heard or read about him. Within the last months of his life, Spencer Tracy was nursed by Hepburn, his lover, and she had been with him at her home when he died of a heart attack at 67. But now get ready to delve into another era of Hollywood legends. In our next video, we unravel the captivating rivalry that shook the silver screen. Was Victor Mature the ultimate rival to Clark Gable and company?